Hello, all, and welcome to Movie Bears Podcast TV. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by some pretty huggable hirsute people type guys who, like me, love to watch television. Imagine that, bears being couch potatoes. Who knew?
Yeah, right?
With
Yeah, sure.
as usual, of course, is Casey Scott.
Hello, how is everyone? Good to be here.
Good to have you. And Steven Heslin. Welcome, Steven.
Hello, other people type guys.
I know. You gotta love my terms, right?
Exactly.
It's so funny. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I get the feeling sometimes that they're kind of like how the Movie Bears podcast used to be. Everything was like, not scripted per se, but just so planned out that like it just almost sounds like you're reading from a script as you go. And so now my policy is like totally doing it on the fly, nothing written down, just popping it out of my head, aside from a little bullet pointy agenda. And
I like that better.
So
it's more conversational, I think.
Yeah, so you get us raw and ready instead of over scripted and over prepared. Anyway, so good show for you guys this week. We are going to be catching up on The Walking Dead. It's been a few weeks, so we have some shit to talk about, guys.
Yes, we do.
We're also going to be discussing some of the shows that we've been watching, kind of on our own. It's hard with so many shows to kind of come together on 2 or 3 shows that we're consistently watching, especially this point in the season, right, guys? Because things have branched out so much, we've given up watching certain things and picked up others.
Yeah.
I mean, would you guys say you're still watching the same things you started watching this season?
Definitely not. Actually,
no.
2 season passes last night.
Oh wow. Which ones? Do I dare ask at this stage?
Actually, Constantine was one of them.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah.
What was the other one? Well, I deleted Selfie because that got canceled. But
Yeah. Yep. Guys, I have an admission to make.
Uh-oh.
I have not been watching American Horror Story in like 4 weeks now, I think.
I deleted that one too.
Did you?
I stopped watching after I think the 3rd episode. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I think the last one I saw was the second part of that like Hunchback dude or whatever, the 2-parter, the guy.
I didn't even make it that far.
I didn't even make it that far. I don't even know what you're talking about.
I gave it more of a chance than you guys. That never happens.
Because you're always more, what's the word? You're more generous with shows, I think. You're like, because I think you're...
you stick to the 5-show rule.
You stick to it. Yeah, you have that 5-show rule, and it's very difficult for me to do that with American Horror Story, because it just... it doesn't hold my interest, and also, it's also not. I don't like to have a season pass to clutter up my DVR because I use that for movies, and so if it's not available on demand in a timely manner, I'm not going to watch it. And so it sometimes takes 2 weeks for it to show up on FX on demand, and by then I'm just like, well, screw this. I'm so behind. I really don't care anymore. So FX has always been bad about their on demand, though. So, yeah.
Well, we've talked a lot about what we have not been watching. Sorry, I'm adjusting my brightness on the fly. I just got a new computer, and everything is, like, out of whack. I gotta... Whoa. That's like a total podcast. Yeah, whoa, that's weird. I don't even know what half these settings are. I feel like my face is super red. Is that a little better?
No, it looks fine to me.
All right, whatever. Okay. Well, so we've talked a lot about what we have not been watching at this point. Let's talk a little bit about what we are watching. We've been kind of jokingly calling this segment MeTV, but just discovered tonight, thanks to Casey Scott, that's already trademarked by an actual TV channel. What?
Crazy.
I still think it should still be MeTV.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh,
how
guys,
about our listeners suggest some good names, and maybe we can pick from one.
Yeah, definitely. If you have an idea for our segment of crap we've been watching, maybe that's not really
crap we've been watching. Right.
But let's get into a little bit. So guys, let's discuss the shows, new or old, that have got our interest lately. Casey, why don't you kick us off? What's something you've been enjoying lately?
Well, I have been raving since it started about Jane the Virgin, which is on the CW, and that's another show. It's on right now while we're recording this, but I love it. It's such a great show. It follows this girl named Jane who, as the title says, she's a virgin, but through sort of a little mishap at her OBGYN, she becomes pregnant, and so the show follows her and how it affects her relationship with her fiance, who's a very patient guy considering that they're planning to get married and they have not had sex.
Oh wow!
And it's kind of it's based on a telenovela, I think from Venezuela, so sort of like, and I think it's from the same producers as Ugly Betty, so it kind of ties into the telenovela roots while also kind of refreshing it and making it a little more contemporary is the wrong word, but telenovelas always really feel very campy and old-fashioned to me, and this show doesn't feel like that. It's funny and it's cute, and I love all the characters.
It's been getting a lot of good press.
Yeah, I think it got picked up for the full season. I don't know if it got picked up for a second season, but the full season, I'm glad, because it's really moving along at a nice pace.
Mm-hmm.
It's past the 5-episode tests, so I'm fully invested and fully on board. And yeah, I love it. I think I tweeted. It's funny. We've been on Twitter for, as far as this show and everything for as long as we've been on, I think. Mm-hmm. And I only am just recently discovering the power of Twitter, because I tweeted that the show's the best. I still think it's the best new show on broadcast TV this season. And I tweeted it, and one of the stars of the show and the executive producer of the show favorited the tweet and I think retweeted it.
Oh, that's
cool. I was like, oh yeah, that's a thing on Twitter where the creators of something you like will follow that trend, and if they like what you say about their show, they'll give you a shout out or retweet it, which is weird to me still. It's this whole interactivity thing, but yeah, Jane the Virgin is great. Now that we're 5 episodes in, I know that it might be difficult to see the first episode now. Because I think right now the CW shows are exclusively on Hulu.
Okay.
And they cycle through. They only have 5 episodes at a time of a given show that's currently on the air, I think. But it's great. Definitely watch Jane the Virgin. It's spectacular.
Awesome.
Okay.
Very good. How about you, Mr. Heslin? What are you watching?
My number one probably, and basically I sort of based this off of, what are shows that when they come on I really want to watch right away.
Uh-oh.
Mr. Heslin.
Steven seems to have frozen.
Am I back?
Yes,
you're back now. You're
okay.
back.
There we go. Sorry. I was just saying that, I basically base this off of what shows do I want to watch right away on my DVR and don't let them pile up. And probably my number one is Grace Point. It's that sort of murder mystery show that's sort of been done in many different ways. It definitely reminds me of The Killing and other shows, but it's well done. It's well acted. The mystery is each week they dive a little bit deeper and cross off people on the suspect list, and I really like sort of where it's going. I also like the fact that it's a 12-episode miniseries basically, because it fully explores the murder in the 12 episodes, and and then the show's done. So I like the finale. I think there's only 3 episodes left, so plowed through a bunch of them.
Has it been that many weeks already? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's been 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, it's and you know, Anna Gunn has her hit and miss moments. You know, there's times where it's like, what? Why is she there? And then there's other times where
Right.
she pulls through. You know, and actually does a really good job. And you know, there's it. I just really enjoy it. I enjoy the setting. I enjoy the mood, the tone, and you know, sometimes it's a little cheesy and over the top with, like, you know, the you know, music gets really dark, and you know, there's somebody kind of lurking and looking, and
Right.
you know, it's like it turns out they're just washing their dishes, and it's like, all right.
Right. Or making brownies or something.
Yeah,
like, that
exactly.
like that old lady, right?
Yeah.
Various brownies.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like the cliffhanger the night before, somebody walking out with blood all over their hands, and then it starts the next episode, and you realize they were just making pomegranate juice or something.
Right.
Oh my god, that's awful.
It wasn't not to that extent, but it's, you know, there are little moments like that. And you're like, oh, come on. But
Yeah.
for the most part, it's really enjoyable and a good
Absolutely.
murder mystery.
Nice.
That was gonna be one of my 3, but I have a backup. But
Oh, okay.
I agree, Steven. I love that show. I'm surprised because I remember when we talked about the first episode on here, we were kind of like, we'll see where it goes,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
maybe, but the way it's going. So
Yeah, agreed.
So we were just talking about how, you know, I'm a little more forgiving sometimes, which I find hard to believe, and that I have this like 5-episode rule. I have the next 4 episodes. Well, the first 5 really. I watched the pilot. I have the next 4 DVR'd, but I have not gone back yet to watch them.
oh wow.
I also have
That
like,
actually might be good because if you binge
you can
watch
binge.
that show, I think it might be better. Yeah, I mean, I watch it live every week.
I want to
binge
go
watching
back. I mean,
that.
I love David Tennant. I love Anna Gunn. You know what I mean? There's a lot there that interests me. I'm a big fan of the procedural crime drama. So I've just been thinking, you know, rather than go week to week to week, it might be better just to kind of binge, you know, the first 5 and then kind of see where it goes. So I'll have to return to Grace Point, guys. And
It's a place worth visiting.
Right. And yeah, and on the show, I'm sure they'd love you to visit. So
Exactly.
that's one of the things on the show. It's like, our economy's sucking because everyone calls us Murder Town. I'm like, what are we going to do? Yeah. It's like Jaws in that way. It's kind of like, hey, this is high tourist season. We can't tell people there's a shark in our waters.
Yeah.
won't you take me to Murder Town?
Oh, right. Yes, it's very similar to that.
Oh, nice. Well, let's see. For me, I am very, very sad to report that the newest season of Doctor Who has ended. I have to say, I watched the first couple episodes of the season. I got to the Robin Hood episodes. I know you guys don't watch this, but for those who are listening who do watch, I got to the Robin Hood episode, and I just kind of gave up. I like Robin Hood, but doing like time travel Robin Hood crap, I lose interest. Once Upon a Time is doing Robin Hood crap, and now I don't really even care about the show, even though it has the Frozen stuff going on, which is also pretty crappy, I feel, at this point. But no, so but I did come back to it. I had like the last 8 episodes like queued up on my DVR, and on my day off last week, I thought, well, I'll watch 1 or 2. We'll see what happens. 6 hours later, I finished the season, and holy crap, I got really good at the end. Again, I know you guys are watching this, so you probably don't have much to say on the matter, but you know, I am enjoying Peter Capaldi as the new Doctor. He's really growing on me at this point. I like what they're doing with his relationship with Clara, his companion, and spoiler alert, Nick Frost is Santa Claus.
Oh, nice.
For the Doctor Who Christmas special. So
Oh, that's kind of fun.
hunky hot Nick Frost
He is hot.
as Santa Claus. How can you go wrong unless you don't like Santa Claus or Nick Frost?
Well, then, yeah, that would go horribly wrong.
I guess it would go horribly wrong.
Don't bother. Right.
Yeah, but I'm excited. So the Christmas special obviously airs Christmas Day, and that'll be the last episode of Doctor Who for like a year until it comes back again. So
Wow. God, that ended quick too.
Yeah.
I remember the anticipation for that was
Yep.
very recently. Wow.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's only like 12 or 13 episodes or something.
Right, because it's British TV.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
They kind of have the right idea if you think about it, because there's so many broadcast shows that are just frankly too much for some of these shows. I like because they don't go anywhere in that time.
Right.
So that's kind of nice that it's a little compact. Yeah.
Definitely. All right. Well, Casey, what else have you got?
I do also watch Grace Point, but I will pick another one after co-signing Steven's great pick. I am watching. Let's see, what else can I pick from my list? See, okay, so I keep a list of everything that I watch by day and time. And if I miss an episode, I can go back and make sure I didn't miss everything over the week. So every day is kind of full, except for Thursday, which is Grace Point. So I do watch a lot of TV still. But the one I'm really excited about, I love this new show, Mike Tyson Mysteries, actually.
Oh.
I don't know if you guys have seen any episodes of this show.
I've never even heard of that.
It is really it's kind of crazy. It's as crazy as the title would suggest. It's a 15-minute animated series on Adult Swim.
Oh.
And Mike Tyson actually plays Mike Tyson and voices himself. And it's kind of like a Scooby-Doo meets Amazing Chan and the Chan Clan meets...
I can totally picture that.
Yeah, it's like all the really bad Hanna-Barbera investigative shows. There's a ghost, sort of like Goober and the Ghost Chasers. There's a talking pigeon who's a sidekick, and that's Norm Macdonald. The ghost is played by Jim Rash from Community. And then he has an adopted, I think she's a Chinese daughter. And it's really crazy and fun, and it's not too long. It's only 15 minutes, so it's really compact and bite-sized. And it hasn't been on that long. I think there's only been 3 or 4 episodes, but it's so weird and off the wall that I have to heartily endorse it. To anybody looking for something very different and unexpected, I think this really fits the bill. And Mike Tyson, I think Mike Tyson was a really polarizing figure until that documentary Tyson came out a couple years ago, which was amazing. And I think it really showed many different sides to him that kind of revealed that he wasn't just this, this violent, aggressive boxer, and then he actually had a really good sense of humor, and then he had a tender side. And this, he kind of pokes fun at the image of him being a really stupid, a really stupid sports guy with a speech impediment. It's a lot of fun. So Mike Tyson Mysteries is great. Awesome. And that's on Monday night, too. Same night as Jane the Virgin. So, 2 Monday night shows.
Awesome. All right. Steven, what's your next one?
My next one, I might be stealing one of yours, Brad, is... I'm just going to... I'm preempting all of you. No, it's Arrow. It's my go-to. That show has not disappointed this season. The Flash is kind of hit and miss for me. Although tomorrow night I'm going to a viewing party for my friend that wrote tomorrow night's episode.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so that'll be fun. We're just meeting in a restaurant with a bunch of his friends, and
nice.
Gonna watch the show together.
Wow!
So I'll report back on that, but yeah, it's there's definitely hit and miss with the Flash, but the Arrow, they've stayed consistent theme-wise. They've had a really good storyline with the Thea storyline this year. She's not whiny. It's deceptive. There's a maturity and groundedness to the show. Action is just always fantastic. And one of the things that I really like about the action is sort of what they're doing with the Roy's character. And versus the Arrow is that they have different styles, even though they're both archers. Like Roy flips around, he does this flip move all the time. You can kind of, even though they're in it's dark and they're hooded, you can kind of tell who's who based on their movements. And I don't know if they're specifically doing that consciously or it's just the stuntmen or that's their styles, but it kind of comes through. So I love that show. I look forward to it every week.
Yeah, Arrow is so good. I deliberately left it off my list, Stephen, because I figured you'd probably take it.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. But it's been so good, so good. And Casey, I know you're not caught up yet, so I don't want to.
I'm not, and it really pisses me off because there's no excuse for it. But
we won't talk specifics, but a lot of the things that they're doing this season, I'm kind of finding the flashbacks this season kind of interesting with where they're going with that. That's been nice. It's a little different than what we've seen, previously, so it's a nice departure. But I don't know, like, I think the show has really found sort of its stride area. I like where it's going. It's hard to talk about it without spoilers, so I won't. But it is a really good show, Stephen, and I think it's a great pick. Absolutely. Good stuff. All right, for me next, I'm going to talk about an old show that Jim and I have been watching. Are you ready?
Oh, good. I won't feel bad then about mine.
So this show, let me do some math, is 50 years old.
Whoa.
And
oh, gosh. Okay.
it's from the 60s, and it's called Kimba the White Lion.
Oh, I love that show.
You love Kimba? You've watched Kimba?
Yeah, of course.
I know that one.
Yes. It's a very early Japanese animated show.
Yeah, so basically, there's a big controversy because The Lion King, in a lot of ways, seems to draw very heavily on Kimba the White Lion.
Yeah.
So the premise of Kimba is, he's a little white lion cub, and white lions are like an endangered species. There's only a few of them left, and his mom and dad were one of them, and both his parents die. Single tear. And,
just one.
He's all alone. He's all alone, in the African savanna, forest, jungle, whatever you want to call it. And he starts meeting these animal pals, and he has to fight for what's right, and it has kind of an environmental message, the cartoon, but it's just really interesting, going back and watching this because, obviously there are some parallels. You have Kimba, the hero of the show, Simba, the hero of The Lion King. You have dear old, his dead dad. Simba actually, this is kind of gross, but he carries around the pelt of his father, like he talks to the pelt of his dead father.
Okay.
That's how you know it's a Japanese show from the 60s and not a Hanna-Barbera show from the 60s. They wouldn't have done that,
But it's totally like it's such a snapshot of the time. You know what I mean? And Casey, you've seen it, so maybe you can kind of echo this, but you think back to a lot of what was going on during the 60s, and the show addresses it in so many ways. You know what I'm saying? There are political messages, environmental messages, and there's, of course, the thing with kids, don't fight unless you have to, and, let's not judge a book by its cover, and even though this, hyena is ugly and smelly, let's not ostracize him, let's make him a friend, because that's what good animals do.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I like the show a lot. It was one of Jim's favorite shows when he was growing up as a kid. And so we've been kind of going back, and I got him the DVD set for his birthday.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's all remastered, so it actually looks like a cartoon that could be on TV now. Obviously, thematically it's different, but it's good stuff. I'm telling you, Stephen. You should.
Interesting. No, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, because it was imported around the same time as Speed Racer.
Oh.
Trying to think, there was another Astro Boy. Those were the three big Japanese imported cartoons in the 60s.
Yeah.
And Kimba, because that has a really strong cult following now from people who want and sort of introduce it to their kids, and it's the circle of life, to borrow from a show that ripped off Kimba. You continue Kimba.
I had never understood the reference until we started watching Kimba. There's one episode of The Simpsons, I guess, when Lisa's talking to Bleeding Gums Murphy, who's died, and his head like appears in the clouds talking to her. Do you guys remember that
I
episode?
vaguely, yeah.
Okay. Well, the sequence starts, and like you see a lion's head, and it says Simba. I mean Simba, and then
right.
Darth Vader, and then Bleeding Gums Murphy. But I never knew. Like, I was like, did he just say the name wrong? Why is that funny? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Watching it, I'm like, oh, gotcha.
Right.
All those Simpsons and their heady jokes.
Culture,
I know. They're so
all those Harvard writers that
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Right.
Another show that you and Jim might want to watch from that era, which it's not that similar. Have you guys seen Johnny Quest, the original Johnny Quest?
I love Johnny Quest.
Yeah, Johnny Quest is awesome. That show is still awesome. Yeah.
Sim Solipim.
Yeah, I really love that show. That was a favorite of mine growing up.
The Professor was hot, and Rafe Bannon.
Rafe Bannon.
Oh my gosh. He gives me the hot and bothered.
Rafe Bannon. Yeah, it's good stuff. 60s cartoons are fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while. Yeah.
All right, last round, guys. Casey, bring it on us.
Well, I was concerned because I do watch so many shows. I was like, well, what would I feel great endorsing? Because this is basically like an extended plug session, which I like, because one plug isn't enough for me most of the time.
That's what you said.
Yeah, exactly. I need at least 2 or 3 plugs to be satisfied. A show that I've been watching regularly, because I've made it a point, I want to see every single episode, is Mystery Theater 3000, which is actually, that's the show that got me into a horror, sci-fi, cult, exploitation films, and so I've been a fan of that show for years since it was on.
When I was a teenager, when it was on originally, we would watch those ad nauseum. We loved them so much.
And it's still funny. It's great, but I'm finding, people who know the show's history know there are 2 eras. Actually, there's 3 eras. There's the Joel era, there's the Mike era, then there's the sci-fi era with Mike, but a different voice for Crow T. Robot. And I guess if anyone hasn't seen the show, I guess the premise should be laid out. I just assume everyone's seen it or heard of it, which is that the plot is that this guy has been shot up into space by this mad scientist, and he creates 2 robots to keep him company up in space. And the mad scientist basically tortures him by giving him experiments, which are these quote-unquote bad movies, from 50s, 60s, 70s that they have to watch. And so it's kind of like way back in the UHF days, before cable came along and everything. TV networks would have these packages of old horror movies that they would show. Local market had their horror hosts that would show up and introduce the movies. Like Elvira was a big one. Chili Billy was another one. Every market had their own horror host, and this is kind of like that, where they have skits surrounding the movies. But then when you watch the movie, you're watching it with them, and you see them in silhouette. And so there are opportunities for visual gags where they can interact with the movie. Lots of really good pop culture references in the humor and jokes. And it's a controversial show still, because a lot of people don't like the fact that the whole premise of the show is built on making fun of low-budget films, which aren't necessarily able to defend themselves, and it kind of breeded a lot of copycats in real life. I distinctly remember at a horror film convention I went to where there was a screening of King Kong, and I was seated behind 3 people who decided that it'd be great to do a Mystery Science 3000.
That's annoying.
Yeah, and everyone in the hated them, and eventually made them shut up because they were threatening physical violence if they didn't shut up to watch King Kong. It doesn't work in every situation, and I think the difference is that the writers and performers for Mystery Science Theater 3000, there's an interaction with the movie where it's not like they respect the movie, but they're not just saying that the movies are bad and should be trashed and don't deserve to exist. I think they're kind of transforming something into something else. It's all art, to sound pretentious. But a lot of episodes, I think almost every episode is on YouTube, and they're never taken down. The producers of the show don't care. They just want people to see the episodes. And there's a lot on YouTube or a lot on Netflix as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I've become re-obsessed with that show. And trying to go through every episode, every season, chronologically, episode by episode. So,
yeah.
I was watching one before we started recording. Actually, an old camera.
That show basically like trained me to sort of do that. As soon as a show starts going bad and I'm watching it live with people, I start doing that to shows. I'll start like doing voices and like adding extra lines of dialogue, and I think I learned it all from Mystery Science Theater.
And then they're like, "Shut up, Steven."
Yeah, well, I have to judge the crowd. If people laugh, then I'll keep going. If people kind of just look at me, I'll stop.
Yeah, it totally depends on the crowd and also like what you're doing it to. Like if it's like an episode, I think my brother and I do it to episodes of like The Flash or shows that are just shows that have gotten a little ridiculous, and so there are long dramatic pauses. That's just like asking for something to be said.
Exactly.
or ridiculous dialogue you can project. So yeah, but
awesome, good stuff, Casey. All right, Steven, last one for you.
Last one for me is a season 3 that just started, which is The Newsroom. I love the show, and they're only doing 3 seasons. They announced this is the final season. They're trying to kind of keep it short and sweet and end while it's still good. And Aaron Sorkin's totally busy, so I'm sure he's just sort of like, well, this was a fun experiment. I wasn't sure it was going to last more than a year or two. But I love the way that this show sort of reminds you that true journalism is very difficult to do, that we don't actually get it today. That most news agencies want to be first and not accurate, and they're more than willing to just repeat what other people are saying. I don't know if you guys saw the first episode.
I did.
Yeah. It's I loved what they were sort of saying about Twitter journalists and how they broke down the events of when the Boston bombing happened, the marathon bombing happened. They broke down the events of when some idiot out there said, "I've solved the case and this is who it is," and named somebody, which was completely false. And then all of a sudden, people on Twitter started retweeting it and retweeting it and retweeting it, and it became a thing. And this innocent person.
Cliffhanger. What happened to the innocent person?
Google Plus does not love us this week.
Oh no! What happened to the innocent person, Steven?
Started getting death. He ended up being okay because they ended up finding the actual guys who committed the bombing.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. We were left with a cliffhanger for a second there. I was like, wait, what happened?
It totally froze on you, Steven, and you were stuck like...
That's good.
Oh, boy. Oh, my God.
That's what you do not want to be frozen.
Yeah, exactly.
No. You're totally right, Steven. It's such a good show. There's only like 6 episodes this final season, right? I think I read that.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah, so it's kind of a short season order. So
I still haven't. I've never seen an episode of that show.
It's so well written. It's just, it's very Aaron Sorkin-y. It's
right.
The dialogue is quick and tense and staccato and.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think I was hearing complaints about the writing of the women on that show. How they're really kind of like shrieking harpies who are obsessed with men.
It's not really. You kind of take that. It's an opinion.
Right.
It's. I will say I can see the merits in saying that here are these smart, powerful women that he's created that then are very ditzy and like can't operate a phone and stuff like that. And it's like, it's sort of like, well, why would you create these smart, powerful women that then? but I see it as sort of these character flaws. You know, like not everyone's perfect and amazing. You know,
Right.
Everyone has these little ditzy moments and stuff. So I kind of, you know, I think people being a little bit overcritical of the characters, but
I think they also. I mean, he did what's her face on West Wing, who was amazing.
Yeah.
Allison Janney's character was so great on that show.
Love me some CJ Craig, absolutely.
Yes, CJ, right. I knew it was something with initials. I need to watch that show again.
So, well, I really only like the Sorkin years. After that, it just not so great in my.
Yeah, you can tell the difference. Absolutely.
Yeah, the tone of the show totally changes and it becomes like serial of the week. You know what I mean? Like anyway.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely, Stephen. Great pick. Newsroom's so good. I have not watched last night's episode yet.
I haven't either. Yeah, I still have to watch that.
Okay.
Probably after this.
So, there you go. Well, good stuff. Last pick for me this week. I plugged this a long time ago before it came out. Star Wars Rebels, the new CGI sort of animated series on Disney XD, has been on, and it's like 6 episodes in at this point, and I think I'm all caught up except for the most recent one. That's tonight, actually. It's airing tonight, and you know, if you're not familiar, this series takes place it's about 15 years after Revenge of the Sith, so the third movie from the prequel trilogy. But it's still, you know, like, I don't know, 5 or 10 years before Return of the Jedi or something. It's somewhere in that timeline.
Right.
But it's all about, like, the growth of the rebellion against the Empire. And I don't know if you watched the Clone Wars at all, the CGI animated series that was on. Okay. Well,
I heard it was good, actually.
Yeah, definitely that series was diggity dog awesome sauce. But that's another Bradism, I guess. But this one, you know, the animation isn't as good. The series isn't as dark tonally. You can definitely tell it's meant a little more for young kids. But it has a lot of fun to it. If you love Star Wars, if you love, you know, blasters and spaceships and Jedi and lightsabers and the Force, those things are all great. But because this series takes place after, like, all of the Jedi have been wiped out, there's much less of a focus on the whole, like, Jedi thing. And I think people get, like Jedi fatigue. Like, if it's all Force, all lightsabers all the time, it just becomes a blur of colors, and it's like, ugh, can we do something else, please? And this show is more about, like, a group of smugglers who are, like, would-be heroes. They're kind of the birth of the rebellion. You know, they're attacking, like, shipments from the Empire and taking the food and giving it to the poor. And I don't know, it's a pretty awesome series. I definitely think it's worth checking out if Star Wars is your thing. I don't know if you guys are.
Cool. Star Wars. I love Star Wars. Yeah, I just haven't. It's one of those things I've wanted to add into my rounds, but haven't.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, that's what we. That's all the stuff we've been talking about that we've been watching lately. There's a lot more, I'm sure. But are you guys ready to talk some Walking Dead?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
I even wore my Walking Dead T-shirt tonight.
Oh wow.
Totes my goats.
Oh, I need one of those.
All right. Well, here we go. Here comes our discussion of The Walking Dead. All right. So, like I said at the beginning of the show, it's been a few weeks since we have talked about the new season of The Walking Dead. Before we really get into it here, we'll just preface by saying that we will very much be spoiling this season. So if you have not been watching,
everything.
I know. If you are listening live right now, I do see some of you are on. Welcome.
Oh wow!
If you haven't seen up through last night's episode, you may want to come back in 15-20 minutes for our plugs. You don't want to miss those.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to miss the plugs. Are always great.
Absolutely. But if you're listening through iTunes, you can refer to our show index in the show notes and skip ahead appropriately. But spoilers are fair game. A lot has kind of happened, right? Since we last talked about it. Yeah. I think when we left off, we just talked about the premiere, right? This is the first time we're coming back since then.
Yeah, and we only have 2 episodes left in this,
until the
this year, so
mid-season finale.
Yeah,
Right,
so
right.
a lot has happened. Yes.
Yeah. So where do you guys want to start?
God.
Well, I think we should talk about the fact that I can't remember the character's name, but the guy who was the cannibal leader.
Right.
I thought that was going to be the new governor, where it was going to last
Thank
all
God it
season, and it didn't. It only lasted 2 episodes.
Thank God.
Dispatch, but what a great character! But at the same time, I love the fact that they kind of switched up their pacing like that. That they didn't make him an overarching enemy. That whole church scene was crazy.
Oh my God, it was it was amazing. I was like, wait, this is still the beginning of the season. What? This stuff usually happens at the end. Like, wait a minute. It totally. That's the thing. This whole season has been like totally messing with my expectations of how things are supposed to go, because it really hasn't been this involving since the first season, honestly.
Exactly.
But yeah.
I'm totally right there with you, Stephen. Like, in the premiere we talked about how, Rick basically told that guy, in the bag is a machete with a red handle, and that's what I'm going to kill you with.
Right.
I'm like, great foreshadowing. At the very end of the season, Rick's going to have the machete, and they're going to, and then, nope, 2 episodes later, machete in the head.
Yep.
So I was like, all right, one and done. Let's go. Man.
Yeah, appreciated that. And then we've always been asking what happened to Beth, and we were kind of like, who cares? But at the same time, what happened to Beth?
Right.
And then we got a whole episode where we got that backstory with the hospital, which, I don't really care about her all that much. And then also, this whole hospital thing, I like the change of scenery, I really do, but at the same time, how are they all so clean? I mean, I know they were like, oh, we wash our clothes, we have regimen, but it's like, where do you get all your water? How are you surviving with food? Everyone's struggling so hard, and you guys just have it all together.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense to me. I didn't like it.
One thing to think about, because so it's funny. We watched that episode in Palm Springs a couple weeks ago while we're there. So there's 8 of us in the living room all watching, and someone brought up that same exact point during a commercial break. And one thing that came up from someone else who apparently has read the Zombie Survivor Handbook or whatever is that if you're in a city and it's been totally overrun by zombies, then you have access to all these homes and stores. I mean, so many places where you could potentially get food. The problem is, of course, are you able to survive to get there? So if you can scale rooftops, if you can zip down wires or clotheslines or I don't know what, you can break into people's houses and find all kinds of shit, right?
Yeah.
You may have to kill a few zombies in the process. So to me, it makes sense that they would be able to find plenty of food. As armed as they are, you know what I mean, as many people as they have, that makes sense. But I agree with you on the water. Where are they getting fresh water? Does the hospital have its own emergency water reservoir?
There are water tanks on the roof, and I'm sure they're doing some rain collection on the roof, but it just doesn't seem to be like that would be enough. And also the people left the city for a reason, because the hordes are much stronger because it was so overpopulated, with zombies. So why is it they were able to make it work and no one else was,
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I never thought about that, honestly. I was just like, oh, this group has made it, because there have to be little pockets of groups like this that have managed to, beat the odds and survive, especially if they're that organized and that intent on taking hostages and keeping people captive and everything. I mean, everything. I mean, because they're in Atlanta, right? And
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's where Rick was, and he didn't run into them at the beginning of the show. So I mean, they just kept to themselves. They go out on runs during the day, I guess, and but
it is interesting to see Atlanta again. I'm actually really digging that.
Yeah,
Me
I
too.
love it. Yeah.
I'm so tired of walking through the forest and look, here's a random building perfectly secluded in the woods, and it's nice to get back to some like urban streetscape. And you know, this latest episode, right? The scene that's on my shirt was from the first episode where Rick is like, you know, you see the highway, he's on the horse headed into the city, right? And we got a total like polar opposite of that shot in this last episode, where now it's nighttime and you see that same street, you see the same cars, but Atlanta definitely looks a little worse for wear 2 years after this whole zombie thing has started. And it kind of felt a little bit like a homecoming, you know, in a way, to go back to where the series sort of began. And it's just so interesting. Like, we saw the tank, right, where Rick was holed up again.
Yeah.
We saw that same streetscape. I swear some of the zombies were even some of the same zombies. I went back.
That would have been interesting.
I was looking at screen caps. Yeah, I don't know if they got the same people to come back and play them, or, you know what I mean, if they reused footage or something cleverly, like footage they shot but never actually put in that episode. Maybe they spliced it in here. I don't know. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. You know.
Yeah, I'm liking that section of it. I'm trying to think of what happened before. I mean, the whole thing with the church, and then they splintered off. So we've been following 3 different storylines. Obviously, the least interesting is Michael Cudlitz and the scientists. And the and the denouement of that was,
which everyone
so obvious
from the very beginning.
Yeah, it was great because I was like, okay, they're not going to drag this out anymore. So it was a relief, and I ended up laughing because I was like, I mean, come on now, people. Like, you knew this guy wasn't some damn scientist, but I didn't know that the extent of his lies went that bad, went that deep. I mean, he lied about everything.
And it was so hard for me not to tell you guys because I knew from the comics.
Right.
Yeah. And so the whole time we're talking about it, you guys are like postulating, and I'm like, must shut up.
Yeah, I knew that eventually was going to happen because, I mean, I think he's a very skilled liar, because I think there was that episode where it was actually this season, I think, where it was Sasha who asked him like,
tell us how.
Yeah, tell us how, and he just ran off some gobbledygook, and she was like, sounds about right. And I was like, well, of course it sounds right. It's just a bunch of big words.
Yeah, if you made something that killed off the virus, it would kill all of them. You know, like, that was interesting.
Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah.
But what's up with that zombie farm? The farm with like 8 million zombies on it.
That was weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if that's a thing or if that's just there. I don't know.
I don't want it to be a thing. I'm tired of farms. Let's stay urban. We've got back to the city. Let's stick to the city for a while. Yeah. And now it seems like they're all going to be coming to the city after last night's episode, which is great.
Yeah.
Well, and I would actually really love to see the series stay in the city for a while.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool, like that. There was a scene from last night's episode where they're in like this crossover bridge between buildings, right? And people set up a camp there. And it was so cool seeing like camping gear set up in this obviously very sort of urban, setup. Of course, they had died and turned and were trapped in their tents, which was also fun.
I
was
think
crazy.
The visual was amazing, but logically it didn't really make sense unless they all drank Kool-Aid, and like died at the same time,
right. That's
all
true.
In their, little sleeping bags and tents, dead.
Right.
But I love the visual, like I'm willing to forgive it because the visual was so cool when they walked in. It's like worms moving around.
Right. No, I thought it was great. But yeah, I don't think I think it's been really great so far this season. Like,
I love how they're interweaving the timelines. You know, they jump to the Beth thing, and then at the end of the Beth thing, you see them wheeling Carol, and then we get the Carol and Daryl show. You know,
they're doing it very well. Yeah.
Yeah, you see Carol and Daryl hunting through, and they run into the guy that Beth helped escape. You know, and like it's just interesting.
Right.
You know what bothers me about the Carol-Daryl relationship thing?
Yeah, what?
There's no like ship name that you can come up with.
Yeah, because it's Carol and Daryl.
It's Carol or Daryl. There's no way to make, it just comes out being one of their names still.
Right.
It's Sidaryl? No.
I just, I said this to my brother when we were watching. I was like, I don't want them to end up together. I don't want this to become a relationship, and I don't think the show is going to steer it in that direction because they fit each other so well in the relationship they're in now that I think to muddy it up with emotions like love would be horrible.
I think I have a theory about Daryl. I think Daryl is Merle's gay brother. They've talked to us before about some sexual abuse when Merle and Daryl were kids, and not that I'm saying
now they have that book.
Right, and now they have that book, right?
That was interesting.
I think he's gay because he was abused, but I'm just, you know what I mean? I'm thinking maybe there's some kind of latent thing going on there.
Right. But I think it's also been a really strong season so far as character development. They're actually doing something really interesting with these characters.
Yeah.
Finally. I don't know what happened. I need to do some research and see what happened behind the scenes because it feels like a completely different team of people are doing the show than last season. It's like, I don't know what happened over the summer. I don't know who hit their head and had an epiphany, but it's been so good this season. It's been so consistent.
It's moving. It's like it keeps moving along. It's interesting. Good backstories. Even Abraham's backstory was interesting. And Carol, the scene with Carol when they did the little flashbacks of when she was ostracized and she's just crying.
Oh yeah.
That was just a great little moment, it was really cool.
What we needed was for it to be raining during that scene when she's like crying in the car, And maybe the radio works and she's listening to some sad song.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Brad, do you also think that maybe Daryl is gay because of the hair? Is that part of it?
Well, I mean,
do you think that Melissa Etheridge's hair is helping?
There's the obvious, like, I want to come over, like, gay Melissa Etheridge.
I think it's the cut-off shirt that gives it away more than anything.
Oh, God.
I think it was that, like, fringe shawl that he was wearing. But,
they had wrapped around very Soho.
Well, so part of it for me is that at this point there have been two women that he's been close to, right? We've had Carol, then Carol went away for a while, and then it was Beth, right? Now Carol again. And
you could have easily boned them at any point.
Exactly, right? There's affection between them, but there's obviously a line that Daryl is not willing or just does not, you know what I mean, is not interested in crossing. You know what I mean? There's been opportunity with both of them. And honestly, for me, guys, like, if I'm in the zombie fucking apocalypse and I'm into women...
Abraham?
I'm probably going to get my mind off things, you know what I'm saying? And even if I'm not super into that girl, maybe if she wanted to go there, I would.
Yeah, I was listening to an interview with Michael Cudless, and, they were talking about, like, wow, you just sort of boned with that chick, and he's like, it's the zombie apocalypse. There's no time for, hey, would you like to? It's like, let me put my thing in your hole. It's just you just go for it because
that's the quote of the evening.
That's the episode title.
Let me put my thing in your hole.
You never know when you're going to die.
We revert back to kindergartners after the zombie apocalypse. Can I put my thing in your hole?
But
that's asking. You're not supposed to ask.
That's so true, right? Like, ain't no one got time for that. Like,
exactly.
If you could die at any moment, you know what I mean?
Right.
let's get it on. I mean,
Right. No matter how smelly and gross you are.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
I mean, at that point, everyone's smelly and gross, so you probably cancel each other out. You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
probably, yeah, your senses are deadened or something.
as long as you make sure you don't have like zombie guts on your thing when you put it in the hole, you know, then
Oh
you
my
could,
God.
like, you know, that would be bad. But
Uh,
otherwise, you know, but it is so true, and I think in Daryl's case, that's one of the things that makes me really believe that there's maybe something going on there. Now,
right.
Daryl is like one of the biggest badasses on the show, and given the show's primarily male fan base, I don't see Robert Kirkman like having a big coming out party for Daryl, even if he is gay.
Which is too bad, because that would be a major turning point.
It would be, but I just don't see that necessarily happening. I could be wrong. If a year from now, Daryl's like, Carol, I gotta tell you something.
Yeah.
I like
I'm
dick.
Right.
with Rick.
Right.
Rick.
Maybe he had a thing for Herschel, you know, unrequited.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Actually, something that really struck me, and the character that I'm the most surprised by, is Beth this season. Because,
Really?
we talked about, like, who gives a shit about Beth? Like, whatever. Like, who cares? But her episode was really strong.
Yeah.
And it made me actually start caring about her again. I was like, wow, I like this girl. Yeah. I mean, you know, she kind of showed some badassery.
Yeah.
Speaking of badassery, you know who's been a complete non-entity this season?
Michonne.
Michonne.
Totally
Done nothing.
sidelined.
Where
Yeah.
the fuck, excuse my language, is badass Michonne? I know she didn't have her sword for a little while, but, you know, she's an episode, she barely talks. It's almost like there's just nothing for her to do this season.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even think she did anything amazing in the church altercation that I can remember.
She picked up
Yeah.
her sword.
I mean, she got her sword back. Great. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, great, I got my dick back. Awesome. Like,
Exactly.
you know, it was like, yeah, her phallus symbol. She got that.
Well, and
back.
that's the thing is like that's the only thing I kind of don't like about Daryl's crossbow and Michonne's sword is like you take those away and you take the character away. You know, like not badasses without their weapons.
Right.
You know.
This is true.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's in. But, you know, something else is interesting because we've had flashback episodes for a lot of people, and, you know, as we've been talking about Daryl and the possibility of him being gay and these connections with people, we really haven't had any substantial backstory for him that I can remember. It didn't. If we did, it didn't make that strong of an impression. But it
Yeah.
also makes me think of how many characters that we really don't know a lot about.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's something that I wish the show did kind of balance a little more, where it kind of reminds me of Lost, where there were flashbacks, and so you could get to learn about the person and how they got there and who they are. But, like, I don't know anything about Sasha. Like, I don't think.
Well, you know, they don't know how many more seasons they have, so maybe they're just trying to pace themselves and not burn
Right.
through it.
True. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't see the show going away. I mean, it was renewed for another season of the premiere again. Thankfully, it's lived up to that. So.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lost, did you catch the Lost sort of homage in last night's episode?
I don't think I
No.
did.
No?
What was it?
So, you both watched Lost or no?
Yes,
Yeah.
I love Lost. Yeah.
So you remember in Lost there was the airplane that was suspended up on the tree branch that was tipped over.
Oh,
Had the Virgin Mary statues inside.
right.
That's right.
That was tipped over had one of those Virgin Mary statues up on the dashboard.
Right.
That's a very subtle nod. Good
Subtle
catch.
nod. And there was even an X-Files nod. I don't know if you caught that at all.
I didn't, but I do love that show as well.
So when Daryl holds up the carton of cigarettes or whatever, they're Morley's, which is the same brand the smoking man smoked.
Oh, God. Wow. No, I totally missed that.
Yep.
That's awesome, man.
The more you know.
Yeah, right.
Now, do you catch that while watching it, or did you like see it on a blog
I-
later?
I saw that while watching it because it was
Wow.
such a deliberate shot. Like
Yeah.
they focus on that for
Well, I
like.
did notice they focused on the cigarettes, but I didn't even pick it up. You know.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Well, I just remember because like my dad smoked Marlboros. And anyway, so like the Morleys, you know what I mean? It's like the X-Files version of Marlboros, and
Yeah.
you know, so that name just kind of stuck out at me. And so then when I saw it, I'm like, oh right, X-Files. You know. And Jim and I just watched Lost a few months ago, and those fucking Virgin Mary statues kept popping up because of the entity on the island and blah, 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 blah.
Did you guys revisit the whole series?
He had never seen it before.
Oh my god!
I had watched it through one time previously.
Yeah.
So
I haven't revisited it at all.
Yeah, so we like powered through it over, I don't know, 5 or 6 months, and
wow.
Yep.
I love that show. I should revisit it. Yeah.
It's awesome sauce. But guys, any final thoughts on The Walking Dead before we move on to plugs?
2 episodes left, and I right now I have faith they're going to deliver. And yeah, because it's been so strong this season. Like, it's really, and because you guys know how violently against this show I was at the beginning of this season. I was like, we'll see, and then the end of last season, I was just like, fuck this shit. I'm not,
You were so adamant. And
yeah,
I think to a lesser degree, we kind of were too, Steven. We were like, well, the show has gotten pretty shitty, and we'll check out the premiere, but don't really have high hopes. And I think it's pretty consistently been pretty good. My only complaint is sometimes I think they go a little too far with some of the characters. Sometimes you need to have some of your action be in the middle of the episode instead of like all front-loaded and end-loaded. This episode actually had a good blend of that because we had several, you know what I mean, sort of action pieces throughout. Right. But there have been some episodes where it's like,
I like how they're getting creative with some of the way they're dispatching zombies, like when they use the fire hose, and they just sort of...
That was wild.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. Like they're trying to get, creative instead of just knifing all the time.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How about you, Steven? Any other final thoughts on The Walking Dead?
He's dumbstruck with awe at how good the show is now. The show is so good that it shut him up.
I think he's been Google Plus stroked.
Oh, no.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Google tonight.
I think somebody's downloading too much porn on my network, and it's the internet.
Don't tell your hubby to pause the download until you're done.
Or at least wait to watch it with you,
Yeah, right?
All right. Well, let's move on to some plugs. I am going to plug House of Cards this week. Jim and I are about 4 episodes away from the end of the 2nd season, and season 3 begins in February. So just a few months away here. So perfect timing. This show just gets better and fucking better. It's so amazing. I was a Kevin Spacey fan before this series, but God, I would listen to that man read the phone book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's so good. But I would say for me, the big star of this season is Robin Wright. I think she's amazing as Claire. She's got that like cold, uncaring bitch thing like down, and I think she's a phenomenal force on this series. Alliteration, it's so good. And if you've been waiting to watch this show, if it's been on your list for a long time, as it was for Jim and I would say move it to the top of the list, guys. Like you need to see this series. It is exceptionally well done.
Yeah.
So good.
And also, I think you will be surprised at how quickly you can digest this show, because you get that invested in it, and you just don't want to stop watching. So,
I like to think of it as the evil West Wing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's better than the West Wing, and I love the West Wing.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. I mean, but I think I like them for different reasons. It makes me want to go back and watch the West Wing, actually.
Yeah.
But obviously, the West Wing doesn't have this dark, morally gray sort of, line that House of Cards walks. But it's good stuff. Casey, what's your plug this week?
My plug is The Comeback, which I have been excited about. It's 9 years after the original series aired on HBO, and that show I think there was a lot of surprise that it wasn't renewed for a second season back then, but it was almost too perfect that it ended the way it is, because the first season is a very nice, compact series following this character, Valerie Cherish, who's this has-been 80s sitcom actress who gets a chance to be on 2 shows. She's hired to be on this really crappy 90 it feels like a 90s sitcom, but it's a 2005 sitcom. It's a laugh track show that CBS would love. And she's on that show, and then tying into that, she's on a reality show called The Comeback, where it goes behind the scenes and follows her life. And it is one of the funniest shows that has ever been on television. It is so good, really ahead of its time, and I think that's why it didn't really catch on that strongly with pop culture until a little while after. I think home video and I think home video helped, because now it's become like a cult show. Then the second season, there's been 2 episodes so far. First episode was great. Second episode had its moments, but wasn't amazing. But I'm still loving where it's going. I'm loving seeing Valerie Cherish back. It brought back a lot. It's bringing back a lot of the cast members from the original show, which is really important to carry on that story. And it's really great. It's such a great show. And so I don't know that many gay men that don't watch Valerie Cherish. You two need to start watching Valerie Cherish. Join the cult. Drink the Kool-Aid. Join the cult.
I watched episodes. The first one actually made me physically ill because of the shaky cam.
Oh wow!
Right.
Yeah, it was just a little bit too much. The second episode wasn't as bad, but it's pretty good. Oddly enough, I'm not the hugest Lisa Kudrow fan.
Yeah.
I think she has moments, but like most of the time when I watch her, I just see Phoebe. That's all I can see is Phoebe.
Yeah.
Oh, this show ruined. This show, I was like, Phoebe who? It was kind of like Veep for Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I was like Elaine who? Like, it completely revamped her image and her sense of humor. So I didn't like Lisa Kudrow before The Comeback, because I'm not a Friends person. I really all. So I was hesitant going into The Comeback because it was her. But God, she's so good on this show. And, yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
Sweet. How about you, Steven?
I'm going to do something unconventional, and hopefully we can make it through without it freezing on me. But I'm going to do an unplug.
What?
I am going to reverse my plug from a couple weeks ago and take back SNL, because it is terrible.
Did you see my post about it?
Yes, and I totally agree with everything you say. The Chris Rock episode was one of the worst episodes I have ever seen in my entire life. It was so unfunny, it made me hate.
Wow. I was angry. I was physically a wreck after that.
Yeah. It's just like, here's guys, it's. I know it's a tough job, and I've been a fan. Like I said on the show, it's like I push through bad episodes because sometimes they're hit and miss. But the first 3 episodes of this season have all been bad, and the Chris Rock one was just absolutely terrible. And they just can't seem to get it together. Now, this past weekend with Woody Harrelson actually was pretty decent and made me laugh several times. But I'm taking that as the anomaly, and that they had a good one. I don't expect a lot from this season.
Wow. Is that MBP TV's first unplug?
I think it is.
Wow.
Wow.
No, I totally agree. And I posted on Facebook because that was a show before MSC3K. I was binging on SNL, and so I was watching whole seasons of the show from the 80s. When the period that everyone says was the worst that it was, from 80 to 85, before Dana Carvey, Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks joined. And there are shows in the 80s years that everyone says are terrible that are so much better than the shows now in terms of laughs and even musical guests. It's just it's the worst it's ever been, and I don't think Lorne Michaels gives a shit because it's the 40th anniversary. And you know, for the 40th anniversary, it should be a really special season, and there's nothing special about it.
Exactly. No, I just felt bad because it's like I'm watching it going like, I told people to watch this, and my name is on the line.
Wait a second. You told people to watch this, Steven?
Yeah, you know. I remember that plug because it was the beginning of the season. I was like, I'm gonna watch. And to be honest, I do watch every week on demand because I still want to be able to say I've seen every episode of the show, so I can say with an informed opinion how bad it is,
instead of just going on the zeitgeist of other people.
Right, and I can say that it's so painful. It's just awful.
Wow, that's disappointing.
You know? Yeah.
No, it is because I have such respect for the show, you know.
Yeah, it's great, but they have too many cast members. The writers, I think, are the mean of the writers is too young. Their political humor has no bite because all the bite is on different shows.
The one guy's Barack Obama impression is terrible.
Yeah, it's not great. And that's another thing. The show it keeps relying on impersonations of celebrities that none of its cast members can do.
Exactly.
So it's like just stop. You don't have impersonations in your cast anymore.
The
you
whole
don't have any impersonators.
The whole point of impersonations. Anyway.
That looks like one of the Mythbusters with that on.
Yeah, that's right. Jamie.
Yeah, yes, that's who that looks like.
That's what I was going for.
And well, you know, you do a better impersonation than anyone on SNL right now. So.
And all you have to do is pull a randomize lever in Google Effects. All right, guys. Well, as always, this has been a total blast. Thanks so much for joining.
Yeah.
I know it has been a couple weeks since we were able to sit down, so I definitely enjoyed doing this with you guys. And those of you who have been watching live, thank you for joining us. And those who are listening in iTunes, thank you as well. We will catch you all again soon. We'll figure out what we're doing, guys, and we'll come up with a plan here. I'm thinking I'd really like to do a retro TV episode, maybe once we're in like the holiday break.
I like that. A Christmas TV episode, maybe?
Yeah, we could do a Christmas episode. We could do like our favorite shows from the 70s sitcoms, or a lot of cool stuff.
Oh, speaking of Christmas, I guess before we go, Arthur Rankin died.
I know.
Of Rankin and Bass.
Rankin and Bass, yeah.
So now you really have to watch all of those specials this holiday season, regardless of your faith, because they're just classic.
Exactly.
Full power, Rudolph.
Yeah, Rudolph Shiny New Year. Oh
you know what? So, parting thought from me. It's not even Thanksgiving yet, and it's all Christmas, 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 and that really bothers me because Thanksgiving is amazing. But I will say, I was at the grocery store today. I'm so obsessed. I know, it's crazy. They had frozen, like, gift wrapping paper, like with Olaf the Snowman.
Wow. Yeah.
It was, I could not resist buying it. I actually made a Christmas purchase before Thanksgiving. I felt terrible. But I thought, when am I going to see random frozen wrapping paper again? They only had like 3 tubes of it, and I'm like...
I can actually probably answer that question for you. Every single day this holiday season, you'll see frozen wrapping paper. But you know what? If you love the show, then there should be no shame in buying that wrapping paper.
That's true.
Because it made you happy.
I bought it because it's frozen, not because well, no, that's not true. I got it because it's wrapping paper too. But anyway, blah, blah, blah. Shut the hell up, Brad. It's time to go. We will see you all soon. Take care. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.